All right, we are live here with Evan Marks from the Ecology Center.
Yes.
Welcome, Evan.
Thanks.
Dude, it's awesome to have you here. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to share.
And I brought you on honestly because I'm just so inspired by what you're doing out in California. I feel like Grateful Dead wise, I know you're a big Deadhead. You got the paraphernalia on right now. I'm sure there's a story we can dive into. But to see someone build community around sustainability, around improvisation, joy, music, the earth, I think you're living out what I'm aspiring to do on some level. So I was like, let's bring on the dude that's actually doing it right now and get inspired. So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've created out there in Orange County?
Yeah, happy to. And I can talk a little bit about the origin story of my journey, and of course weave the Grateful Dead into the origin and the inspiration because it is ever present. It's like a fractal. It's all the pieces are present in all forms. And so I learned that from the Grateful Dead. I guess I'll take a step back, which is that my journey started as a youth, and I was a bit young for the authentic Jerry Garcia experience. Um, and Nonetheless, Jerry's been an incredible mentor and inspiration for me, along with the whole crew, but really the spirit at large. And I picked up on that spirit when I was a teenager. Um, Got into psychedelic music and the experiences thereabout early on, and found my way on to summer tour Fish in 1998, and that was real formative. That was like, oh wow, there's a whole new community that I didn't really know existed. I grew up in Southern California, which is in Newport Beach, which is between Los Angeles and San Diego, and it's a surf town. It's a cool low key town. It wasn't overly fancy back then, and but nonetheless, there weren't a lot of hippies at that point in the '90s, and but I found my way to them, and I became one with them, which is a greater sense of being, a greater search, a greater sense of purpose, and a greater mission back to core values. And I bring all this back between kind of weaving the psychedelic culture with the ecological culture, which is all
Mm.
I like to believe that the values are the weaving, the in between, which is, and the core values I like to speak to them, which is caring for the earth, caring for people, and then sharing the surplus. So that was an early turning on for me, was jumping on a summer tour and then finding community around that, um, those people with those similar sensibilities that were searching for the sound and searching for purpose.
Mm.
uh, yeah, I'm kind of trying to weave my vision and relationship to the Grateful Dead spirit, as well as like my origin story. So like, um, but that was kind of the early start for me, and then that's been a constant relationship for the last 25 plus years of finding inspiration, learning how to be an improvisational artist, learning to see all of the things that Robert Hunter and Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir and John Perry Barlow and all these people have been mentoring us into are the same principles that we see in ecology and in nature, right? And so my world is just kind of interconnected those, and yeah, I make those visible here and pretty regularly at the Ecology Center. There's Grateful Dead playing all the time.
That is so beautiful and just so inspiring. I mean, I'll speak for myself. When I discovered the Dead, it was pretty recently. I honestly got a car that had Sirius XM radio and stumbled upon their station. And it was at a similar time where I was going through an awakening,
Mm.
and the music just totally hit me in a way that no other music had. And it opened up my mind and got energy flowing. And I thought of this business that I'm running now, the Grateful Den, because of that music.
Nice.
And I'm trying to do something a little different than you, where I'm weaving in the principles into business, which is just like so counter intuitive. But when you can like find that, I guess it's not, but from
I
the
weave, I
outside,
weave, I weave the principles into business all the time. We should have that conversation.
hey, let's have it. We're here right now. Let's
Yeah.
let's just unpack the
Yeah.
principles of the dead and how it's impacted us. And that's what this podcast is about. Like, how have you developed the courage to carve your own path and live by those principles when we live in a world that's so defined in certain boxes? And you said you grew up in Newport Beach. I know people are open in California, but what was that like, trying to carve your own path when it was against the grain of your community?
Yeah, I had an experience early on, and and this conversation was the kind of the opening of the door, which was the transition in the mindset from seeking to be the best in the world to being the best for the world.
Hmm. I love that.
And that all of a sudden there's elevation and there's a worldview that's presenting itself. So that was really like that was formative for me of seeing my role in this universe and in this beautiful planet, and there's impermanence, there's sort of scale of like, hey, we're very little, we're like just part of this big cosmic web, and all of that humility is rewarding at the end of it, which is that we can dedicate our life to the pursuit of positive impact, or we could get sucked into this eddy of nothingness. And so that was it, all supported in the context of having amazing parents,
Mm.
we're also creatives and were willing to support me in my pursuits. And and then part of my spirit is, and the fortune is that like I'm on a path, and I was able to find that dharma, that path early on, and that path for me was, as a surfer, I learned that agriculture was the number one source of pollution in our oceans, and that on the other side of it, I could find community, culture, and well-being and purpose by growing food. So it was an easy bridge to cross. And so it happened that again, weaving this all together, that my friends over here were that there was the same community and culture that I found on summer tour. We were growing food together. We were making a difference, and so from those seeds and seedlings turned forests and ecosystems over decades. So I guess that's kind of like the starting point for me of like finding a path and a purpose is learning to come back to like, what is it, our gift, what is our magic, what is it that we love doing, and then try to weave that with the values. I think permaculture, as an example, is a word that we talk about as the conscious design of human settlement. Permaculture isn't a context around growing food. It's not about a garden strategy. It's a consciousness. It's a way of bringing values into all forms: business,
Hmm.
banking, agriculture, architecture, social structures, you name it. And it's again coming back to care for the earth, care for the people, share the surplus. So there's something for everyone. Is, I guess, the summary here is that we all have an ability to get on to that big, that big kind of mindset,
Cosmic train.
cosmic train. So yeah, exactly.
Well, it's so incredible to think, if you follow simple principles like respect the earth, be part of community, make a positive impact, be humble. You're a small little particle in this massive galaxy. If you can ground into those daily, how much lighter you'll feel, how much reward you'll get from opening your eyes to what's around you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've tried to integrate into business, not try and, bang my head against a wall and open up doors, but really open my eyes. What's right in front of me? Like, what is the universe giving me based off my intentions? And then boom, I have some other deadheads that are entrepreneurs that want to be part of our community here. And I meet someone like you that's doing just incredible work with ecology. And if you can bring all these people together who have their unique gifts to share. Then you have this collective of really powerful energy where you're reaching. I call this podcast Ripple because I want to reach people way beyond the four walls of our space in Toronto. And, I'm curious with you, this whole idea of your mission of, finding your purpose, living that out. What are the sacrifices that you've had to make in order to like really commit to your path? Like, has there been a moment where you're like, okay, I have to just like trust this intuition inside and go a different way, even though I want to do something else that might feel good in the moment?
The question is, what are the sacrifices of following a path?
Yeah, like I can give you an example. Like for me, making a lot of money felt good for a while. It's this picture I had in my head, get a house and go on these vacations and play golf. And then eventually my soul was like, no, that's not your path. You have to get out of that and like not make a lot of money for a little bit and find a path that's more aligned with your soul. So I'm curious if there was like a moment for you where you had to kind of shift gears
Definitely.
and make a sacrifice.
Always, yeah. I mean, I started the Ecology Center when I was pretty young. I was 28. I was just coming off of living and running farms in Costa Rica, designing projects in Africa, and a whole myriad of really interesting learning learnings for me. And so coming home was a starting. It was an empty house in a dirt lot, and I didn't have any. There was no money in the bank account. I stayed with my family, and I leaned on my friends and my partners, my wife, and and we cobbled it together, and that's and it was joyful, And I think you hinted at it a second ago, which is there's so much more to life than what's on the surface, and as I am a father and I have two children that are 7 and 10, and our greatest aspiration for our children, and if we look in the mirror for ourselves, is to find happiness and health.
Mm.
Right? Nothing. So money can't buy either of those things. I hate to tell you that. Money can buy some things, but it can't buy everything. And if that's the pursuit, well, then you're going to start another journey. You're going to start another lifetime and find another way of finding another of purpose, because that's going to keep getting you into this treadmill. And I'm lucky enough. I run a nonprofit organization, so we're working with philanthropists and those with extra resources that want to share the surplus. And you can have as much as you possibly think you need and want, and there's still a lot of people that are not happy at the end of that road. So happiness comes through many other forms, mostly through purpose, mostly through health, mostly through connection with people and planet, and so on and so forth. So those sacrifices are small, but it's all. I like to think that so much of this work is a state of being. It's a shift in the mindset. Um, so yeah, that's the change, which is like get out of the industrial rat race and step into an abundant life.
Mm. I love that. I love the abundant life. And I like to say there's so many currencies outside of dollars.
Mm.
You have your social currency, or family currency, your health, your joy that you experience day to day. And it sounds like you found it kind of young. What you needed. It sounds like surfing
Yeah.
really was the first thing to kind of open you up to living with nature, and that kind of led you to your purpose.
Yeah, I was lucky to have an older brother, and he was ahead of the curve. So he got me into a lot of cool stuff, surfing, skating. He taught me about design, um, modeled certain ways of creativity that still form me today. Um, but yeah, surfing was the open door for me to have connection to planet Earth, which is nature and sort of that intimacy of nature. Surfing also built literacy for me. I became good at surfing, and so that creates a sense of pride and self esteem. So those are important things too, which is get good at something that you love, and then grow from that. Um, some people want to they want to design the ecology center. Well, start with a simple patio garden and get good at that. Feel like relationship is this growing, and then add complexity and space and so on and so forth. So that's an example of starting somewhere, but knowing that it's going to lead many other places.
Hmm. Yeah, I really like that idea of not trying to force a creation into the world, but just follow what you're drawn to and see what that leads to
Yeah, and it's a
and
good
be
reminder.
open.
I'm going to weave together like whether it's the Grateful Dead or whether it's nature's pattern.
Hmm.
A forest starts up with, and some of my work was restoration agriculture, which is taking degraded pastures in the tropics, hundreds of acres, and turning them into vibrant, resilient forest ecosystems. And so nature's natural cycle wants to do that over hundreds of years, but with we put the pieces together, we can do that over a couple of decades, and we did it. But it starts by understanding succession, which is how something goes from nothing to something, and then at the back end of succession is entropy and death. The Grateful Dead was the same exact experience. They started as a garage band at a pizza parlor, right? Then they created they were the house band for the acid test. They're getting feedback. You're learning. They're building community. They had 20 followers. There was sticky. There was energy. They were doing something magnetic that turned to 200. It turned to 2,000. It turned to 200,000. Now it's so on and so forth. It happens over time. It doesn't happen overnight. No such thing. The harder they come, the harder they fall. So you don't want to find instant success, because that means you're going to find instant failure
Hmm.
or death. So
I love that.
you got to see the ecology of it all. You got to see that, yes, we need to build a canopy. Well, it's going to take a little time to build some canopy before we can have shade for the understory, and so on and so forth. And so this is just, again, observation of nature and the people, the mentors in front of us. The other things, we can't control everything, right? So we have to, like you're building a network of people. Any good business just needs a small network of people,
Yeah.
and it'll grow. You do something well and it'll grow. So that's like the reminder. And that's where marketing, in quotes, online e-commerce, in quotes, like all of this stuff is a bunch of junk for me. It's antithetical to nature, which
Right.
is it's an extraction industry. We're trying to
Hmm.
we're trying to we're trying to blindfold people and take something that they have that they might not want, because we're giving them something that's junk. I'm giving a general broad statements around the industry of commerce that's happening across the world, which is buying junk and having no relationship to it and throwing it away the next day.
Well, there's two things I want to touch on with what you're saying. And the first one is just such a good reminder for any entrepreneur that's building something. The harder they come, the harder they fall. We live in this age of virality. Everyone is just trying to get attention and be really loud online. And I get caught in this a lot. Like if I'm posting on Instagram, I'm like, oh, what's going to hit with people? And I'm ignoring what my truth is and what I actually want to share. And then the ego takes over. And okay, you can hit it big and get like a million impressions, but what does that mean? Like, does that mean you have a stable business? If all these people come in, are you ready for the traffic? Can you make the impact that you want to make? So it's just such a good reminder to, like I say to all of our entrepreneurs in our space, build from your nature, stay in integrity,
Yep.
partner with the right people,
Yep.
lay the foundation.
Yep.
And
So,
there's also an element of like, okay, we live in this world where we have crazy tools where you can build pretty quickly and you can come up with a business overnight and have a presence. And if you have a really positive mission that can make a great impact, use the tools that we have. But there's a dance between don't use them to exploit and be greedy, use them to advance your mission and maintain that energy of why you're doing it in the first place.
yeah, it all just comes back down to the why. You know, are we trying to give more than we take, or take more than we give?
Hmm.
So it would be the invitation is, if we're in, we want to leave it better than we found it.
Mm.
Did the Grateful Dead take? No. The Grateful Dead knew that the relationship was interdependent, just like nature, between the audience and the musician. There, without the music, without the audience, without the Deadheads, there was no Grateful Dead,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't this. This wasn't. This isn't popular culture. So this is. I like to think that in this conversation, we're having the ears of those that are looking to build long term impact.
Mm. That's who I'm trying to reach.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I think with the dead, what's so interesting is if your vessel's open and you feel that resonance with their music, which was what, 50, 60 years ago, it's still, there's a transmission and there's this creative energy underneath it where it hits you in this way that awakens your soul. Like, how could it be that millions of people have that same almost like prophetic experience at a show from music, and not many other bands are able to do that? So their intention is just so strong. And I know Jerry said, we just want a simple planet, uncluttered life. Like, I've heard that's kind of his mission. But I'm curious, like, what, you talk about why. Like, what do you think the Grateful Dead's why was or is? And how do you connect to that?
Well, I like to think that it's all a fractal of everything that we're talking about, which is it's a shift the culture
Hmm.
or the consciousness. The Grateful Dead at the core were medicine men,
Hmm.
right? They were holding a shamanic experience of transformation. And like you said, that was resonating. That was landing for millions of people, transforming their state of being into action, into living into these principles and values. It's profound. Most people, you're either in that inner circle of knowing this conversation or you don't have any idea about it, and that ultimately is fine. You got to find your way here, um, but that at the core of it is what it is, and so it's potent for those that are interested.
I could talk about this for 5 hours. I know we only have about 10 minutes left, so I do want to redirect the conversation a little bit just to what you actually have in the Ecology Center. People in Toronto, all over the world that have never been. Like, if you could describe it, if you came to visit, what would you benefit from seeing that? And people that are living in cities, how can they live by the principles of what you've created?
So we've got a really cool thing happening here. We're located right in the middle between Los Angeles and San Diego, in a small town called San Juan Capistrano. We are 2 miles from the ocean.
My sister lives in Laguna Beach. How far away is that from
Laguna Beach
where
is
you are?
about 15 minutes north of us,
Okay.
so
Well, I
very
will
close.
definitely come visit
We're at the
in
Laguna Beach.
September.
We at the Laguna Beach Farmers Market every Saturday and have a very strong following in Laguna Beach. Um, the Ecology Center is 28 acres on a historic farm in the middle of a neighborhood. Like I said, 2 miles from the ocean. So this is Orange County. This is incredible context here. Orange County was named after the Valencia orange. This is all oranges and agriculture, 100 years ago to about 60 years ago. And then we went big on suburbs, community cul-de-sacs, and consumerism. It was like kind of like our forte. And that's picked up, of course, into Toronto. It's picked up across, basically every corner of the developed world. We're enthusiastic about our separation from nature and agriculture, but this is the coming home. This is the story of we can put the culture back in the agriculture. We can grow community and an abundant future right in the neighborhood. And so that 28 acres is a village. It's a certified regenerative organic farm operation. So we grow an amazing abundance of delicious fruits, vegetables, and flowers. It's a working farm. We have a school here, so it's at the heart. We're training young change makers as children. We have thousands and thousands of children here every year. We have a school here. We have after school. We have field trips. We have festivals. We have all sorts of daily expressions. There's a farm stand at the front door where you get all of your provisions from our farm and other great organic farmers and other makers and artisans. We have a cafe. We have serving all of the ingredients from the land. We have an organic sourdough bakery.
Wow.
We make all sorts of interesting products. We have a cottage industry of jams and pickles and ferments. We teach all sorts of programs, not just for children, but for adults, from yoga to we have a dance class with your friend Tiara.
Dance Alive.
It's culture, it's community. We have farm dinners. We're bringing chefs and eaters back to the table together. It's bubbling up. There's an enthusiasm here. 150,000 visitors this year. People are hungry for connection, hungry for this substance, this purpose, and the reason is because they come here and it changes their state.
Hmm.
And if we could do just a little bit of what the Grateful Dead did, if we can just do a small piece of that, people come and they breathe here, they dance here, they feel inspired here, they go home and they become better versions of themselves.
It's incredible.
And that can happen
Incredible.
anywhere. And that happens again with starting your orientation around gratitude, which is that I don't need a lot, I just need a few things, and I need the people I love around me, and I need to nourish myself, and I need to be conscious and intentional with the things that are bringing into my life. And that starts by going to a farmer's market and learn and go and get your fresh bread from your baker. There's all the old ways. It's like that's the heart of it is the old ways coming forward. Um, so I'll stop there.
Wow.
But yeah, that's the summary of what's happening here.
I mean, number one, I am 1000% going to come visit the next time I'm in Laguna Beach. That just sounds like a dream world you've created.
Yeah,
And I really get that you've created a world, an alternative universe
yeah,
that fits into a city, a town, whatever you want to call it. And I just get that this is so needed outside of California too. Like, I don't know how you could create an ecology center in Toronto, but I'm curious going forward if you have any future visions of, consulting with other farmers, or do you have like a plan to scale this into other markets or create, micro versions of it?
we have a lot of growth strategies around nourishing our community, but it's not in the same sense you're talking about. What comes to me is there's a group of people in Toronto that have the ability to turn on Toronto, and there's a group of people in Portland that can turn on Portland, and that's the power from the ground up. Um, there isn't a lot of secrets other than just trying to pay attention and serve the community, and then work together as a team. So yeah, we're happy to support and inspire. But yeah, like another thing is that we're just a sum of all the pieces we've been paying attention to. So let's start paying attention to the things that we want to bring forward. Um, Build relationships. That's how ecology works, is that we build these nested systems that can support one another, um, and learn to grow together. I mean, it's yeah. I don't have all the answers for sure, but we are a proof of concept, and every community could benefit from this.
Well, I like what you said about paying attention to. You're some of the parts of what you paid attention to. And what I get from that is, you had a vision and intention. You probably started this with your family or on your own. And I'm curious, like, did all these things just kind of come to you once you started building? It sounds like it was a natural process of building this 28-acre world that you've created.
Well, the design principles are iterative. There's no master planning in the same sense that you would think of development. It's like nature evolves always. We're always change is inevitable. Get comfortable. We're changing. That there's movement happening. We move things around, but the things I've been paying attention to is that back to the Grateful Dead. There's a lot of good hippies starting in the early 60s and beyond that did this kind of thing in different forms. I brought my unique signature here because of all the people I've collaborated with, but ultimately this is a shared vision. This is all a dream we dreamed.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's like it's it's less innovative than you think. It's just like, yeah, it's a village. It's how villages have always been organized. There's a baker, there's a school, there's a farm, there's a marketplace, there's a cafe, and maybe traditionally that would be a bunch of small enterprises, and they live all on downtown Main Street, and they all know each other. It's the same idea, it's just a little bit different capitulation. So
Neighborhood living. It's
yeah,
so simple. Wherever you are, like, in Toronto, we don't have the ocean, we don't have these massive farms, but where we found the Grateful Den, we're on top of a cafe. The building is right beside a farmer's market. I live 2 minutes away. It's a simple life.
yeah.
And I'm not paying crazy rents that people that are starting these, social wellness clubs, they're going downtown and dressing up to the nines, and it's cool to do that, but I'm trying to live within what's already here and pay attention to, oh, that's a vacant space. This person walked through the door. They can complement what we're building. Let's team up with them. Let's just like jam on our collective visions and see what that translates to. And it's been a beautiful, long, strange trip from initiation of the concept to where I'm at now. And I can only imagine. How long have you been doing the Ecology Center for?
It's been 18 years.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's a
really.
lifetime.
Yeah, I feel like we're just getting started, which is the most inspiring piece. Like we're just like the foundation is so solid, and the community's hungry, and great group of people around me, and so we're having fun, and we're just getting started. But yeah, we've learned a lot over the seasons. It's been a real cool journey.
Well, you're a cool dude. I'm so honored to have you on this show.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
And yeah, thanks for being open to it. I look forward to meeting you in person someday. And before we end here, I want to know if there's a Grateful Dead story you want to leave us with.
Well, we wanted to grateful that story. I like to share my Grateful Dead favorite quote, which is a summary of
Or
all of
that.
this, which is, "Without love in the dream, it'll never come true." And that like I think that'll encapsulate everything we've talked about, everything that you're in pursuit of. It starts and ends with love.
Got nothing to add to that. That's beautiful. And yeah, let's sign off with that. Without love and a dream, it will never come true.
Yeah, thanks, brother.